Hey, welcome to Genre Exposure, a film podcast. Join us as we explore the wide world of cinema, broaden our horizons one movie at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and as usual, I'm here with Michael.
Hey, everybody.
And Jason.
Hey, everyone.
We're back, I didn't die.
Yay! He's COVID-free and still breathing.
Yes. I just feel like we need to give context to last time, so I was COVID-free, but I had a really bad allergy attack mid-episode.
Uh-huh.
And thanks to the magic of editing,
It's not as bad
you
as
won't
it... Yeah.
hear where Dustin actually died on the floor, and then we gave him the vial of reanimator liquid. And then he tried to perform cunnilingus on me, which was really weird.
Whoa.
Because I don't have a vagina.
You don't?
Worth a shot, I mean...
Yeah, I never know till you try.
Wow. That's Jason's motto. Never know until you try.
We've got a listener episode today, and we're super happy about this one. It goes back to the very first listener request we ever received.
The OG.
The OG, the first one. So we want to say thank you to Rob, I don't know which way to say your name.
We'll say Robert for now.
Say
It's
Robert.
more formal.
We'll be respectful.
Yeah.
From Robert, yes, and he suggested we check out It Follows from 2014. Mm-hmm. So we're going to dig into that. I assume it's going to have a lot of interesting things to talk about.
I don't know, how many pages of notes do you have?
Not as many as last time, but quite a bit.
I hadn't seen it since 2014.
Me either.
I forgot it came out that long ago. I was thinking it was more recent for some reason. And then I remembered, time has no meaning anymore.
That's true.
In post-COVID,
Yeah.
time's a flat circle.
Flat circle.
But first, of course, we're going to warm up and talk about what we've been watching. And I don't have a shout-out this time, I'm afraid.
That's okay. That's
Things
okay.
have
You've
been
been busy. You've been
yeah.
working really hard. You had the post-COVID thing going there. You had most of your organs replaced and became General Grievous for a little while.
Yeah.
General Kenobi.
But we are part of the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, and we love it. There's thousands of hours of great content that you can fill your ear holes with.
Yeah, I got a good idea. How about some of you recommend what we should be listening to on the network? If there's anything you guys have been listening to, you dig that we haven't mentioned, that Dustin hasn't mentioned, let us know.
Yeah, guide my hand as I explore the world of prescribed films.
That phrasing.
I like it.
Guide my hand as I explore. Whoa! Uh-oh.
Yeah, we love it. Super cool.
Yeah.
What have you guys been watching?
I'll go first.
Jason.
I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, okay.
I'm really interested in that one.
I liked it quite a bit. Quite a bit. It's pretty fun. Michelle Yeoh's great. She's always great. But she really gets to be funny here. And we don't see that of her too much.
It's one of the things she talked about in interviews about that movie is that she finally got a chance to do a comedic role, which she's always felt that she could do.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And
I think
because-
we've been cheated all these years for not doing one.
Because she is Michelle Yeoh, everybody's like, no. You're gonna kick some ass.
Yeah, you gotta be the action
We
star.
don't really need you to do comedy.
It's great, and Ki Hu Kwan's in it, and we haven't seen him in ages. I guess he was semi-retired or something, but he played Short Round. He was in Goonies.
Oh, yeah.
And he's really good. It's a shame he hasn't really been acting much.
I heard he has a big action scene.
He does, yeah.
Because I was reading about how he even did some of the stunt work for it himself.
Yeah.
Is that the scene in The Office?
Yes.
I have seen that.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's pretty good.
That's like full-blown Jackie.
Yeah.
Like, just hardcore, old-school Jackie Chan stuff. It was gorgeous.
It's pretty fun. Stephanie Sue's in that, too, and she's really good. She's on Marvelous Miss Maisel. I don't know if anybody watches that or not.
Oh, yeah, I do.
I do not.
It's good.
Yeah,
You should watch it. It's a good show.
It might be your thing.
It won't be his thing. But no, I mean, common complaint of mine. It does go a little bit long, but it's so kinetic and kind of hyper. After a while, you're kind of like, okay, I'm tired. Can we wrap this up? It's kind of like,
It's the first time you've heard that.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a technical question?
You may.
How many other worlds do they go to in the multiverse?
Well, that's kind of hard to keep track of, because some of it's like really fast, just like snippets.
I mean, would you give me an estimate for distinct worlds that they go to?
8 to 10 off the top of my head.
So what you're saying is it actually is more of a multiverse of madness
I saw what he was
than
going for
Doctor
with
Strange
that, yeah.
Multiverse of Madness.
Well, I'm afraid I cannot answer that because I have not seen the Doctor Strange
It's the
movie.
three-verse of madness.
Yeah.
I mean, it is technically a multiverse.
This
because
has a lot more multiverses then.
It's more than two, so I guess it... Well, I mean, even two is a multiverse. But
Yeah.
I would probably label it like a duoverse.
Yeah.
And then
me too.
like a trioverse. And probably 4 up is where it gets weird saying it like a quartroverse or whatever. So then you go to multiverse. That just seems like the more logical thing to do.
But no, if you dig action... Oh, Jamie Lee Curtis, too. Yeah, she's great in this. If you dig action, if you dig comedy, if you like kind of weird, more high-concept movies, watch it. You'll dig it. It's a lot of fun.
I've been excited about that one. I just haven't had a chance to watch it.
I think you'll like it a lot.
I'll be honest, I don't know why the trailer kind of put me off. It had like, I don't know, something about its vibe didn't gel with me, and I was waiting for one of you two to watch it to see what you said. So now maybe I'll circle back around.
I like it a lot. I think you should watch it.
It's also A24.
Yeah, no, but
So, I mean, A24, if they put their name on it, I'll at least watch it.
They put their name on it.
I mean, what else are they going to do?
I dig it.
okay.
I laughed at this more than I do most straight, up comedies that are made these days. There's this great play on the movie Ratatouille. I won't spoil, but it makes no sense, I know. But when you watch the movie, it's freaking hilarious.
I love Ratatouille. So.
Ratatouille is good, yeah.
Okay. I'll go next.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like you're never last in the order, Michael. So we'll put you last.
Okay. You're just going to be disappointed, but it's fine.
I'm gonna march out one of my COVID watches. Also, a little bit of a special watch. So I checked out Island of Death, directed by Nico Mastorakis from 1976, and I watched this because Jason, you gifted this to me for my birthday, which was during my COVID quarantine.
It's a great movie for a COVID fugue fever state.
It was, and it was great because it was like, you were like, hey, I got you a gift, and I was like, just worry about it later, and you're like, no, I'm going to come over, bring it, and leave it on your porch. So then I check it, and I'm like, what is this movie? Huh?
He made sure it wasn't a flaming sack of shit first.
And then I looked it up, and everyone's talking about, like, the dude, like, rapes a goat in it. And they're like, oh, it's so terrible. This movie is filth. It's the worst thing ever. And so I'm reading all these reviews, and that's all they're focusing on. And so I'm thinking this is going to have, like, a 20-minute, like, drawn-out graphic, like,
yeah.
dude fucking the goat scene. And then I watch it, and this is going back to your thing, Jason, about, like, extreme horror, quote-unquote.
Right.
Wasn't that bad. Like,
No.
it's so short, and they don't show anything, and it's just
Right.
all suggested. It makes me wonder sometimes. I don't know. I guess some people, even the idea puts them
Right.
off. But
It's the concept itself that disturbs so many people, and they just won't. They won't give it a shot. They won't give it a chance.
They won't give goat fuck.
Look, if you, yeah, I'm not even gonna.
There's nothing you can
There's nothing I
say
can
that's
say.
going to come out okay.
But scrolling through my letterbox, like people I follow that have reviewed it, I see a lot of 1 stars. And even overall, I think it's got like a 2.8. So it's not the most beloved film, I guess, but I actually liked it quite a lot.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's hard to take seriously because it's so over the top.
Oh yeah, it's a British couple. They're on a vacation on a Greek island, and at first it seems like this nice, fun, like newlyweds having a good time, and then you rapidly find out they're like crazed, deviant serial killers just on a spree.
Yeah.
And they're only here to try to like lay low and lose the heat they've built up everywhere else.
It's like if John Waters directed an actual horror film. That's what this movie is like.
Super crazy, some hilarious parts, and like even the ending, like if it puts you off for all the like vile shit they do, there is a comeuppance at the end. And it's a pretty brutal one.
Yeah.
It also made me think a lot of Natural Born Killers. I don't know why. Just that like couple.
Tarantino had to have seen this.
Yeah, had to have. Just like that couple out on a rampage,
Yeah.
living large. Super fun. Maybe go check it out if you like extreme or more extreme stuff.
Yeah,
And
it is violent and gory and stuff.
If you're into goat fucking,
if you're gonna go fucking, there won't be enough to satisfy you, I guess. But
you're going to find better elsewhere. I guarantee you that.
yeah, but I liked it.
How many stars did you give on Letterboxd?
I gave it 4 stars actually.
Nice.
Was quite pleased.
Awesome. Michael, it's up to you.
Well, mine's a lot more wholesome than, and there was no goat fucking in mine.
Was there goat lovemaking?
No, no, there wasn't. I like that you that you're insinuating that like there was no love between that man and that goat.
Oh, there was no love.
Oh,
I mean,
That's
he
true.
did pick it up and pack it around a little bit first and was like petting on it.
Yeah,
so.
but then he slits its throat right after. So.
Oh, God.
Spoilers, God.
Oh, sorry. I spoiled the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Oh, okay. I watched the Bob's Burgers movie.
Yay!
I didn't get to see it in the theater because I still am not comfortable in theaters, so I mostly just wait for everything to hit VOD. This one specifically hit Hulu and HBO Max at the same time. But
I watched it as well.
I fucking loved it.
It was funny. It was good.
It's just like a really long episode.
That's what I was going to ask, 'cause I feel like with TV, animated show, movies, it's like they either just do like a long episode or they try to blow it up into something big.
No, it was a higher concept story than 25 minutes will allow them, in an episode. What really threw me was how quality the animation was.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's a lot of shadows in places that you've never seen them before in the show.
A lot of smooth, fluid motion.
Some great musical numbers, which is one of the things I've loved about the last couple seasons of Bob's Burgers, is when they just randomly have musical numbers. They're just, I don't know. It's just, they're great.
They've always done smooth.
I thought it was a ton of fun. Piper didn't like it as much.
Really?
Yeah,
What's her problem?
I think it was because it was so long.
It's like an hour and a half.
Well, but she also really only likes to do like 2 episodes of Bob's max, like in a sitting.
Okay.
And then she starts to lose interest in it, which I get because the type of comedy it is. It's some people can binge it, others not so much. But I do think it's best enjoyed in small quantities.
I agree too, but I didn't feel the movie was too much of an overblown episode to get tired of it myself.
No, I was right there with you. She didn't care for it as much as I did. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. The best part is it's streaming on Hulu and HBO Max, so both, depending on which one you have. You don't have to have seen the like any of the episodes to really get it. I think you'll get a lot of the jokes more because there's a lot of little throw-in jokes.
Right.
But actually had a really heartfelt moment too, which Bob's does great when it really wants to. So I don't know. I loved it. I'm super excited to finally watch it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Good one to end on.
Yeah. Wholesome. Happy feelings.
All right, so today we are doing our listener episode on It Follows.
Oh shit! I think I screwed up. Because I watched a porn parody. It Swallows.
Does that exist?
I hope it does.
If not, do your thing.
It's out there. Someone
what?
take it. That's for you.
It's a freebie.
out
Yep.
there to take.
Just send me a free copy.
Just like my Ju-on box of grudges that I pitched over on Unsung
Box
Horrors.
of grudges. Yeah.
Just make sure you don't charge me when you put it out. At least give me a credit in
Yeah,
there somewhere.
right.
It's the closest you'll ever be to starring in a
Based on the
pornography.
idea by.
Jason from Genre Exposure. Could you actually leave Genre Exposure out of that? We don't want that in there. Just Jason.
No last name either, just Jason.
Just Jason. Actually, that fits. That really fits. It Swallows, based on an idea by a guy named Jason.
This came from Robert. We thank you so much for this suggestion. You were our first suggested listener episode ever that we received, and it didn't happen for a while.
Oh, wait. This isn't the director, David Robert Mitchell, is it?
No.
Are we sure?
I am positive, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
And this guy that suggested it, he does still interact with our stuff on social media, so seems like he's still out there. So thank you, man.
Yeah,
Love
thanks,
ya.
dude. That's awesome.
He might not listen to the show anymore, but he interacts on social media. He long gave up on the show.
Well, maybe he'll notice It Follows and be like, "Oh."
I think I recommended that to those guys.
You have to get past the goat fucking first.
And it was really a momentous suggestion because even though we didn't do it first, the fact that it was suggested made me go to think and put Under the Silver Lake into the mix. So,
Just to piss Jason off.
yeah.
I didn't hate that movie.
And now that we're doing this, there's only one more David Robert Mitchell film, and we have done the whole set. So
What is the other one?
it's the first one he did. Was it the Myth of the Great American Sleepover or something like that? I can't
Yeah.
think of the
Is that
title.
like a what is it, a comedy or something?
Yeah,
What is
it's like a
that?
comedy, drama kind of thing.
I was pretty
Yeah,
excited.
the myth of the American sleepover.
I was actually pretty excited to do It Follows when we did it because just recently with Jordan Peele's new movie coming out, Nope, he's been in some interviews and people were asking him like, what are your top 5 favorite horror films? And It Follows is in his
Nice.
top 5, which makes total sense because
You can see like elements and connections there. I think.
it just has that same feel.
Yeah. Now I think we had all seen It Follows before.
Oh yeah.
I had,
Okay.
but hadn't seen it since 2014. So
I hadn't either. I watched it the first time. I think I blind bought it the second it hit Blu-ray, and like watched it that very day.
I'm pretty sure I remember it. It did some. I think it hit some rounds, like at the circuit festivals and stuff, and made a pretty big buzz.
Yeah, there was a lot of hype around it.
So I remember I actually Redboxed it because I remember when it came out, I like rushed to the Redbox.
Hey kids, remember Redbox?
It's still there, and it's still probably your best value in movies.
The ever economically conscious Michael will tell you what the best value is.
I'm such a dad. That's your best value right there. $1.25 for a Blu-ray.
You may have to drive all the way across town, but you're going to save 25 cents on the
Hell
rental.
no, man. Well, now Piper won't let me go to the Redbox anymore because she said they're not sanitized. So I'm just touching a bunch of weird shit.
Oh, those will tell them what you're touching.
So now they have their streaming where you can rent to the streaming, and it's actually only like $4 to rent a movie. And that's really not bad. So it's also economical, and you don't have to leave your home.
Holy shit.
It's a good value.
What genre is this film? Right? It's just horror, pretty much straight up. Do we want to add any qualifiers besides that?
There's a bit of supernatural.
Well, I mean, horror, supernatural.
Look, I know the supernatural isn't something that's supposed to happen.
But it does happen. I think it's pretty much straight horror, personally.
I do think it's worth saying there's a lot of like throwback style to it, I think.
IMDb has mystery thriller, but I mean, God, those are also interchangeable. Along with horror.
It must have been up for an Academy Award, so they put it as mystery thriller.
Better give it another tag.
I'm sorry, what were you saying about the style?
It's definitely like got a throwback style to it. It's reminiscent of earlier.
I would say a classical style.
Yes, that's a good term.
Which is my preferred style. I mean, for most movies. It's not for every movie. Every movie is individual, but I just miss that old school type of filmmaking like this represents.
This is very Carpenter, in my opinion.
I think that was one of the director's biggest influences was Carpenter and Romero, he said.
I mean, it makes sense.
Oh yeah, you can see it all over the film too.
Yep.
So shall I hit us with the synopsis?
Yeah, hit a synopsis. Synopsify for us.
For 19-year-old Jay, autumn should be about school, boys, and weekends out at the lake. But after a seemingly innocent sexual encounter, she is plagued by strange visions and the inescapable sense that someone or something is following her. Faced with this burden, Jay and her friends must find a way to escape the horrors that seem to be only a few steps behind.
Jason's such a child. As soon as he said sexual encounter, he's over there. Ooh.
I really am. I'm just a kid.
Yeah. Film opens with Jay.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. And I actually
that's
forgot
right.
about this. When I started at this time, I was like, what the fuck is this
Oh,
opening
really?
scene?
Oh, I remember that opening.
Yeah, I didn't remember
that.
it at all.
In my
really?
mind, from what I remember from the first time I watched it, it's Jay in the pool.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I know I watched it on the Blu-ray, so there wasn't any kind of like weird...
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we
No.
see a girl running from her house and screaming.
and we're in this very quaint, like, suburbia...
It is your typical, suburb. It is so nondescript and so real. Mm-hmm. It's perfect. Because you see a lot of like suburbs in Hollywood, and they're like too pristine or too what's the word? Antiseptic, because they're supposed to represent like the everyday banal. But this looks good. It looks lived in. It's a perfect neighborhood.
I'm pretty sure it's Rust Belt, too, so...
Shot in Detroit.
Yeah, that's what I thought was Detroit, so...
And if you want to talk about Carpenter influences, this very much has that Halloween vibe. Like, this could be that same street that they're on.
Yeah, right.
I thought that the whole time. It definitely has that feel. Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, that house was actually in Hollywood, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this one is not in Hollywood.
Because their Haddonfield, Illinois conveniently had a lot of palm trees for some reason.
So this girl is like in her night clothes, but wearing high heels and running very well.
Yeah, I thought that same thing. Like, kudos to that actress, man. She really put forth, and she gave it in those heels. And they were not like just heels; they were fucking heels.
Yeah, and she's looking behind. Like, it looks like she's being followed by something, chased. She's looking behind. We don't see anything. But why the heels?
I don't know. Maybe she was preparing to go out, perhaps?
But why would she have her heels on first?
Good point.
Was she at her parents' house?
Yes, because her father comes out after her.
That's right. Okay.
Because she runs out at first, and then she like circles back and gets in the car.
Gets in the car and drives off.
Yeah, I don't know. When you asked that question, I don't know why.
The only thing I can think of, my idea is that because the night clothes she's wearing look kind of youngish, like something a younger child might wear.
Yeah.
But she's got heels on, so I think it's like that intersection between childhood and womanhood.
Which
That's my
this
theory.
movie plays with that a lot.
Right, and that's kind of the whole theme.
So maybe this is sort of a setup
Yeah.
to get that idea.
Yeah, here's our thesis.
Yeah, but she hops in the car and she drives and just drives and drives and drives, and you can tell she's just panicked.
It's a great shot, too. I kind of want to bring up the way that's shot because you see her run in, no cuts. Like,
Oh, yeah, it's
if
all
there
like big one take.
if there is a cut, it's hidden. But it just like stays on the house, and you really feel like you're right there with her. Which
You feel like you're a neighbor. You're like a voyeur.
yeah,
It's like you're across the street.
That's
and you're
a very
like,
good
what's
point.
going
Yeah.
on over there?
And that happens a lot in this movie, and that
It's a lot of watching.
you feel it's very Hitchcockian in that way.
Rear window kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Or the Burbs, if you want to go for that one.
Yeah, you could. You could. So she drives till she gets to the ocean, apparently.
Yeah.
And she's sitting.
What the Jason?
What?
It's not the fucking ocean. If they're in Detroit, what is it?
Oh, it's a Great Lake. Sorry.
It's like
I don't know. We don't know how far she drove, Michael.
Let's
She could have
simplify.
driven all the way to the Atlantic, all right?
Let's simplify this. She's at a beach.
She's at a beach.
she's at water. She's around
She's
some
by
water.
some water, which is also a recurring theme in this movie. But she's facing away from the water, be it fresh or salty. And
Like you.
that's right, fresh and salty. Anyway, so she's on a cell phone, which is interesting because it's one of the few pieces of modern technology we see in the whole
Yeah, we're
movie.
going to talk about that later.
Yeah. Talking to her dad, saying that she's sorry she was like a brat to him and all this stuff. And then like there's this hard cut to the morning, and she's dead and mangled.
And I really like the shot of her on the phone because she's got the car there and she has the lights on.
Yeah.
And it makes this little like illuminated circle and she's kind of just in the middle of it.
Right.
On the phone.
Right.
But yeah, she dead now.
Yeah, she did.
And her leg's like broken off.
Yeah, it's like bent backward
And her character's name is Annie, which if we want to make more Halloween parallels, there is an Annie in Halloween.
That's right.
But now,
Now we meet our heroine.
just kind of chilling in a backyard pool.
Floating about.
And I think here's where we first got to talk about the score, maybe. Right? The music?
Yeah.
Because it's fucking incredible.
Yeah, it's great.
By a group called Disaster Piece.
It's actually one dude, I believe.
Is it?
It is.
There's a really unfortunate thing when you try to look up Disaster Piece. They're kind of Disaster Piece as a whole, like as an entity, is there, but they're kind of that whole enigmatic type thing.
Very
you know?
artsy-fartsy.
Yeah, very artsy. But there's also a group of kids called Disaster Piece
Oh, no.
that have started a band that were that have their own website, and you can buy their shirts. And I was like, because when I pulled it, I was like, no, surely not. Because they talk about how their rock and grunge sounds influence just make everybody happy. And I was like, this can't be the right thing. But yeah. So be careful. They're the first ones you'll get if you search Disaster Piece.
They did Under the Silver Lake as well, correct?
Yes.
Which did have great music.
This dude is just a great composer in general. Like, anything that Disaster Piece shows up on, I'm like, yes, the music's going to be
It's
amazing.
very 80s. It's kind of synth-wavy. It's very
Carpenter.
kind of Vangelis, Carpenter-esque, yeah.
Also had reminded me of the soundtrack to Come True as well.
Yes.
Had that same kind of vibe.
The whole movie reminded me of Come True quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, I definitely think Come True was probably inspired some, at least like aesthetically, from It Follows.
It would be hard not to be. You know, if you made something after It Follows came out, it made such a huge splash in horror that it has to be inspiring to filmmakers. I mean, because spoiler, it's really good.
It was fairly profitable, too. It made like $23 million against a $1.3 million budget.
Oh, I see.
It's like, any good horror film should make a good profit.
I'd buy that for $1.
So, yes, we see Jay, we learn her name is shortly, floating around in the pool.
Just chilling.
There's a couple of pervy kids, younger kids that are...
I object to the term pervy.
No, total pervy
They were
after what
definitely
you see later.
Pervy kids.
When he's looking through
That
the
was a
window.
little over the top, yes. That I will grant you that is a little over the top.
A little over the
Wow.
top.
Jason's scale of pervy is...
So you're telling me when you were a kid, you never looked at like a cute girl next door or something?
I did not go hide in the bushes and look at her while she's in the pool, no.
I didn't have a cute girl next door, so...
Or guy. Whatever.
Or guy.
I didn't have anybody next door to go peer at or leer at.
Well, there's your problem.
But no, these kids are clearly their parents never taught them to respect women. So, I mean,
Okay, whoa, let's pump the brakes on this. I gotta side with Jason a little bit.
Thank you.
They're just kids goofing.
They're curious kids looking at a pretty girl in a bathing suit.
yeah. Her sister comes
And
out.
she even says, "I can see you," and she's
Yeah.
just kind of like, laughing it off. It's not a big deal.
We should say Jay is played by Micah Monroe,
It's great.
who really carries this movie. She's just amazing in it.
Oh, the cast is pretty good.
They're
Yeah,
all great,
she's-
but I mean, like,
Yeah, it's her movie.
the movie would fall apart if she wasn't as good as she is.
Yeah.
Agreed.
As this character.
She really feels kind of like somebody you know, which is the nice thing. Like, she's not so over the top actress that she does feel like somebody that I would know.
She's kind of a girl next door type.
Yeah. But her sister comes out, tells her that they've got some, Paul and Dana. Yara.
Yara.
Why did I think her name was Dana?
Which the sister, Kelly, is played by Lily. Oh my god, this last name.
Sepe?
Sepe?
S-E-P-E.
I hope that's
She's
right.
also quite good.
They have a fun sisterly relationship. But at this point, Jay's like, no, I'm not going to hang out. I'm going on a date tonight. And clearly, she's kind of hit it off with this boy. She's gone on a couple dates with or whatever, because Katie's kind of like, oh, yeah, same guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's a dude named Hugh.
Yeah, Hugh. Or is his name Hugh?
Spoiler.
Spoiler.
Jeez.
Yeah, but Jay comes inside, hangs out for a little bit while they're watching TV. There is a bit of a...
And I love it because they're watching like an old movie on TV.
Just about any time you see a TV in this film, it's like an old CRT set, usually in black and white. So it kind of throws you off as you don't really know what the time period is. But then you've also got Yara chilling on the couch reading.
Oh, Killers from Space is what they're watching, by the way.
I was
Which
just looking for that, Jason. Thanks.
does they end up throwing a plot foreshadowing in that little clip there.
Yeah.
But Yara's reading from this compact, like the seashell
It's like a
compact that's
clamshell
like a
e-reader.
Yeah.
e-reader, which
Don't exist.
it's so strange, but
And it's like super modern looking, too.
yeah,
When I saw this in the theater, I loved the movie right then and there.
from that thing.
Yeah, seriously. Like from the whole aesthetic, because it's nebulous. You don't know when it's set.
Yeah.
The set design is like from the 70s or 80s and all the houses.
Well, Mitchell said too something interesting about
very
it.
dreamy.
Is and I will get into this because the same thing happens with Under the Silver Lake. Like with Mitchell, everybody seems to kind of like want to pick apart his movies and find like all of this hidden meaning and like, which is kind of the point of Under the Silver Lake. But with this one, like one of the things he said in the interview was like, this is dream logic. Like this is based on a nightmare, so it doesn't have to make sense.
Yeah.
Which I love. And we talked about that with Come True as well. Which when you're within dream logic, like just fucking give it up. Like you don't have to make sense and find clues in everything. It's just, it is there.
Which, file that away because that's going to be important later.
Yeah.
To set up some other stuff, Yara's played by Olivia Lucardi. I love her in this film. I think she's like adorable. I
She's
know
pretty
she's
good.
one of the more like lesser of the like core cast, but man.
Yeah, she injects a lot of personality into a small role.
And then Paul is played by Keir Gilchrist.
And Paul clearly has a thing for Jay. Like from the second you see him look at her, you know he's the awkward teenage boy who's got a big crush, and she really.
And it doesn't come till later, but we eventually get a little more context. And these are like friends that have lived on this street and they've grown up together and they've always kind of hung out and moved through the same circles of people.
Mm-hmm. And I love I like their friend dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is, I mean, I didn't really have that same friend dynamic. Like I didn't really have a lot of friends, so yeah, you wanted to say it. I said it. I don't give a shit. So like I didn't really get to like hang with friends that way. Usually because where I lived rurally, I had to like go to somebody's house, and there was always like a plan.
Had to be like an event. That
Yeah,
you
we
did.
were doing something, but I like the way this is. Like you can just tell these kids are like, yeah, I'm coming over to hang out.
And that also seems kind of reflective of a bygone era. Because, I mean, how often do kids just hang out? You know, hang out and watch a movie. They're hanging out playing cards later on.
Yeah,
You know, no one's on the cell phone. We know they exist. We just saw one in the opening, you know. They're just hanging out. It's very kind of old school.
we see Jay's mom sitting at the table. Interesting thing they do with her is we're never going to see her,
Nope, never fully.
which I think is on purpose.
Yeah, she's a complete non-presence.
But
Really, like most adults, there's like a
yeah.
non-presence in the film.
But yeah, Jay's basically saying, "Okay, I'm gonna go get ready now," or whatever. We move to a scene where she's getting ready for her date. Normal thing. Normal teenage girl getting ready for a date or whatnot. And then we just cut to her and Hugh standing in line at a movie theater.
Yep. And I have a note about this.
That movie theater was super cool.
Yes, it is
Yes,
super
it
cool.
was.
It is the Redford Theater. It's a historic Japanese-style theater with a fully functioning Wurlitzer organ.
Which gets
It's
used.
beautiful. That thing is beautiful.
And, fun fact, The Evil Dead, the original film, premiered there.
Because it's Detroit. Yeah, makes sense. That's awesome.
So I love the thing that they're... So Hugh is kind of like the... I viewed him as kind of like the Devon Sawa.
I got that vibe, yeah. And he's played by Jake Weary.
He's kind of like that rugged, cute guy, you know, but always like maybe a bit too cool. Definitely too old for her.
Definitely.
We don't really know how old she is.
No, well, we do know she's in high school.
Is that high school?
I thought it was implied she's in college.
I think it's college.
Oh.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they never tell you one way or the other, really. It's left to your...
The reason I thought it was high school was because of how pissed off that teacher got when she got up and left during the reading, and I'm like, no college professor gives a fuck about
Some
that.
of them would get... I've had some that get shitty about that.
Oh.
I really have.
Like, I just get up and go. If I got to take a piss, I got to take a piss. I'm not doing it
It's
right
just
here.
that looked like a college campus. I've never seen a high school
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's college.
look like that.
All right, well, whatever.
Does that
He's
ruin...
still clearly a little older than her,
Of course
though.
he's dead. Don't you know he's dead and come back from purgatory?
Obviously.
Well, I still got the impression that he might have been older than her.
Yeah, I think you're supposed
He's
to.
a little bit older, yeah.
Yeah, he's 21.
But I think she's at least 18.
But I really like this game. So he seems to be a little like on
Nervous
edge.
almost, yeah.
Nervous on edge while they're waiting in line to buy their ticket to the movie. And Jay points out this game that her and her sister play, where you kind of nonchalantly look about the crowd that you're in, and you pick a person that you would like to be. And that if you could be that person, that's who you'd pick. And then the other person has to choose who they thought you picked and
Figure out why.
And figure out why. So they play this game. I forget, did she choose?
She sets it up, and then he goes first, and it's once the line is kind of progressed into the lobby.
Right. She's trying to pick who he chose. And she's looking around, and she picks this dude who's like making out with a girl like up on the stairs.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'd choose him. And she's like, who? And he chooses this little kid.
Yep.
Whose parents are like holding him to the water fountain, giving him like soda and popcorn or whatever. And I think this is kind of our first foreshadowing for his character, as he
Definitely.
said, that kid, I want to be the kid. Like, can you imagine having your whole life ahead of you? Like, nothing expected of you, just you've got everything ahead of you. And then
Which
jokingly,
is what someone who's about to die would say.
exactly, yes. And then jokingly says something like, he could be shitting his pants right now. I could never get away with that, which I kind of love that line. Cause, I've shit my pants before. You could be shitting your pants, sir.
So they progress into the theaters. They sit down. They're waiting for the movie to start. And
that there's a dude playing that Wurlitzer.
it's awesome. Oh, love it. And then Jay does her selection from the crowd. And so Hugh's kind of looking around. And he's like, oh, obviously, the girl there in the yellow dress that just walked in.
Hugh is obviously racked by that. Like, he's like, the fuck?
He calls it, and then Jay's like, who are you talking about?
Mm-hmm. And so she points, back.
No, he points.
He points back, and she's like, who? There's no one there. And that's when Hugh's just like,
you can see the color like drain out of his face in that moment.
Yeah. So Hugh tells her he's not feeling great, and they just have to leave, like abruptly need to leave. So, Jay doesn't really fight him. They just get up and go. But as they're leaving, she thinks that there's something wrong. She's trying to get it out of him, and he's like, no, I just don't feel good. I just don't feel good. So then...
Tiffany rewatched this with me, and it was funny because she said, if I was on a date with someone, this would be like a red flag, and I would walk away at this point. If we go to the movies, then they flip out and don't want to stay for the movie.
That would be the smart thing to do, yeah.
Yeah, because she even asked, like, did you see an ex-girlfriend or something like that?
But, I mean, God, how many people do we watch have poor relationships, and there's so many red flags being thrown out all the time, and you're like, just fucking leave.
It's different when you're in the moment.
And they never do. But I think our next scene is Jay and her sister walking somewhere.
They're walking through the neighborhood because Kelly wants to smoke.
Yeah,
and
that's
the
right.
mom doesn't like to see them actually smoking or doing stuff like that.
Another very much Halloween type scene.
Yeah.
But they're kind of recounting the date, and she's telling him, like, I don't know, he seemed like something was on his mind and whatnot. But she was going to give him another chance. She was going to go out with him again.
And this is where we first see Greg, isn't it, across the street?
Yes.
Yeah. Greg's a bad boy.
Yeah.
He's washing his car.
His long hair.
Played by Daniel Zavato.
But I'm saying it's Kelly. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I keep
Kelly.
wanting to call her Katie. But Kelly gives him a wave. Like, she's
She's like, oh.
like, hey, look over there. He gives a wave back, but it definitely wasn't for her.
Mm-hmm.
But then the scene moves on.
And this is when they get to their home. Isn't this when they're on the porch playing cards?
Yes.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about this because they're playing Old Maid. Mm-hmm. And if you know the premise of that game is you have to give something to someone else to win.
Right.
That's sort of like the core premise.
Nice. Yep.
Well, and Jay's already gone back out on a date by this point because she's not playing Old Maid with them. But the kids are kind of discussing everything, talking just about life in general, and Hugh and Jay, I think they bring her up a couple times or whatever. But you do find out that they're actually drinking booze out there.
Yeah.
Which is funny. They've hidden it in a Coke can, which is also great.
And Kelly kind of insinuates that, like, boys always just love Jay. Like, they always fall for her every time.
And, man, Paul's such a putz. Paul fucking pisses me off in this movie. But at the same time, we now have Jay and Hugh doing the dirty in the back of that car.
Well, first they go out in the woods, right? Yeah, they have a little, like, picnic kind of thing.
Yeah. Start making out, go back to the car, have that sexual encounter you talked about or whatever it was.
In front of an old abandoned building, which, very Detroit of you.
Yeah.
But after it's over, Jay is just kind of like...
He's rummaging around in the trunk.
Yeah.
And she's laying on her stomach in the back seat.
And she's just kind of like playing with a flower and talking about how she always dreamed about like her future and being able to go on dates and stuff and like being with a cute boy. Hugh comes back and he's kind of like kissing her back and you think he's like being all romantic. And then all of a sudden he fucking like smothers her with some ether or whatever,
Oh, is that not romantic to you?
God damn it, Jason.
It was interesting the first time watching it.
Right.
Because it's kind of like, well, what's going to happen now?
And so it cuts now to where she wakes up. She's still in her skivvies. but she's now tied to a wheelchair.
And she's in that abandoned building.
In that abandoned building, Hugh's pacing around behind her, like with a flashlight, looking around and everything, and then starts to tell her the premise of what's happening.
Yes.
This is where we get the big like lore dump.
Is that he got it from somebody else. He got it from some chick he met at a one-night stand in a bar. Actually, I don't think he says it at that point. I think he says that
Get it later.
But,
Same difference.
but ever since then, he's been chased by this entity.
And if it catches you, it will kill you. Straight
And this
up.
entity can present itself in any way it chooses. It might choose to be somebody you love, somebody you know, or it might just be a person in a crowd. So you really never know who this person is or when they're coming or what it is.
He says sometimes it appears as someone you know, just to scare you more or something like that.
Yeah. And at this point, you see a naked chick walking through the building.
Yep, making her way up there.
Full blown naked. and she's definitely any KKID because she was up to no good. She's naked.
And Hugh tells her the only way to fix this problem is to sleep with someone else and pass it on to them.
Yeah. So Hugh's already like a giant fucking douchebag.
Yeah, this is woo,
Yeah.
not cool, dude.
Red flags, man.
And the whole point of this wheelchair thing is he wanted to wait for it to come so that he could force Jay to see it.
Right, and
so
believe
that
him.
She would know he's not lying.
Yeah.
I mean, sure. Great job, man. Thanks.
Well, I actually, in the long run, I actually think that's like a smart move to do because later in the film we see what happens
If they get the person.
if you just casually kind of pass it along and the person has no concept of what's going on.
Yeah. Which makes me think it happened to Hugh before. And he learned the rules
Yeah.
of the game. But now we cut back and the kids are playing Old Maid on the porch talking. And the car just comes screeching up. And Hugh gets out like frantically, drags her out and just fucking throws her in the street and takes off. I mean, at least the dude in Animal House did it nicer and like left her on the front step or left her in a shopping cart, I think.
I don't remember.
What the fuck, man? It's Animal House. Yeah, well, everybody rightfully freaks out. Police are called. You know, fanfare all rolled out on the street and everything. Police are interviewing her and basically come to find out that Hugh isn't at all who she thought. It was a fake name. He rented. She didn't even know where he lived.
If she had an address and they checked the address and it's just an abandoned house that he was like presumably squatting in.
Right.
And he told her that he was just he didn't take her by his house because he was embarrassed where he lived. You know, which is like a total normal. God, I've heard that a million times. Yeah, but
They check that abandoned building too because they try to find the woman, but there's no trace of that either.
so life presumably goes on, and the next day, Jay,
She's at college.
wherever the fuck she is,
She's in her college course.
she's in a studious setting.
She is at a school.
Yeah, a school,
And she sees a old woman in like
hospital.
hospital gown.
Well, this is the first time we get like the great camera work in this film, where it shows us out the window, and there's one person like walking direct at the camera POV, and she doesn't notice it at first, and then eventually it catches her eye, and it's one of those things like, is that just a person like walking through the quad there,
Right.
or what? But as it gets closer and closer, that tension builds, and it just like sinks in on her.
All right, I'll give it to you. The quad. Now that I think of it, it does look like a college.
Yeah.
Fuck y'all. You can have it.
And fun thing to toss in because plenty of horror films do this. You have the teacher teaching a thing, and that thing is somehow relevant to the film. So
much like in Halloween.
Yep. The English teacher is going over a poem by T.S. Eliot, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock.
I remember that one.
And it's going to take too long to go into, so I'm just going to throw that poem in the show notes, but it has parallels with the film.
Yeah, go read it. It's a good poem.
Well, now Jay realizes that this woman is like coming towards her.
Yep.
And starts to realize, oh shit, I think Hugh might have not been lying. And everything. So she just gets up and busts out, and this is where that teacher can fuck right off. Because if she needs to go, she needs to go. I'm sorry. Like, what do you want her to do? Rip ass right there in the classroom? Just like,
You sound like you're speaking from experience, Michael.
I have a college degree.
I've ripped ass in the college course, yeah.
I had to get up and leave.
Classroom.
I had to get up and leave. You don't recover from that, man. You drop the class and you get a new one.
So she's kind of running through the halls, and
She
she
passes
almost
some other students.
yeah, and she's
And
about
one of them stops her and says something about, where's your pass? And she says, screw your pass. Oh, wait, no, it's a different movie. Never mind.
yeah. Wait, what?
I was like, I didn't see this.
No, but she's about to leave, and she turns back to look, and there's this old woman coming up on her, and she says hello. It doesn't react, but then those people she just passed are like, hello?
Hey? Yeah.
Very confused. And she just storms out.
Yep.
Get out of there.
And I think now she runs. Does she go back to her house?
Yeah, she goes back home, and she's hysterical at this point with fear.
Right. Yeah, rightfully so.
None of her friends volunteered to stay the night.
This is where Paul comes out to try to play the big hero.
Yeah.
And instantly,
Oh, no, what it is, she goes to where they work, because some of them work at
they
that
work
little
at ice cream place. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Because they give her an ice cream.
Yeah. And Paul's like, I'll come over and help protect you.
And he's trying to be the big man so he can like slip in there and be like, "Don't worry, baby, I got you." But Paul's just such a.
It's a pretty good plan.
But
Okay, I'm going to set this up now. I kind of like Paul.
Yeah, I like Paul. He's all right.
I don't because of what he said later.
Oh, my God.
A line that he says later really fucking.
Make sure you bring it up when we get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. I think I know which one it is.
But Paul's like, "No, I'll come stay the night. You know, I'll stay up all night. I'll keep an eye on everything." Yara comes over too.
With her clamshell.
With her, that sounds dirty, but okay.
Which she's
It
reading.
wasn't dirty until you made it dirty.
She is reading.
Dostoevsky?
Yeah, the Idiot.
Yes.
Which put a pin in that. We'll come back to it later.
Well, Jay ultimately can't sleep. I mean, rightfully so, because she's scared. So she comes downstairs. We get a little backstory now between Jay and Paul about that. Turns out they were each other's first kiss. They kind of had a thing, but then Paul like immediately turned around and kissed her sister, like right after doing that.
I don't think it was immediately right after.
It was probably like one of those things where he's like, "Yeah, I'll try you out. Yeah, you know."
That's in It Swallows.
Softball pitch. I just tossed it up there, waiting for you to hit it over the fence.
Hey,
Oh my God.
We're gonna have to reference that in the show notes and just have a fake. Actually, it might be real, and then we'll have to reference it.
I'll look that up.
Anyways.
But I actually really do like this scene. I think it's really sweet because they start talking about when they were kids and they found a bunch of porno mags behind a store, and like they didn't understand sex.
Don't Google that. Don't Google It Swallows.
Uh-oh.
So they got in a bunch of trouble because they were just like had these porno mags like laid out in the middle of the lawn, just looking at them laughing.
Yeah.
Which
You do.
Yeah, you still do that. Like, look at this one. But then we kind of find out this is where Paul's a little more like, really kind of pining after Jay.
He's always loved her.
Yeah. Except when he kissed her sister.
We don't know the full context to that.
He kissed her sister, man.
Kids kissing. What? It's not about love.
God, man.
We don't even know who initiated it either.
Yeah, maybe she did it.
Because it's a subtext in the plot, I think, but there's definitely some like jealousy there, I think, between the sisters.
I was just debating whether or not to tell a certain story, and I have decided not to tell the story. So.
But is that not wrong, Jason?
No, I think you're right.
Everything with Greg, where it's like Kelly's clearly into Greg, but then Greg is immediately fixed on Jay, and it makes this weird dynamic between them.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that tension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think now Paul gets up, right? I think he goes to the bathroom or something. Mm-hmm. And
They hear glass breaking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He runs in there into the kitchen, I guess it is, and says, "There's a window broken in here, but I don't see anybody."
Yeah, and that's when she sees.
He runs up to get Yara and the others, and then Jay's walking in there.
And she sees it. And it's this
It's pretty unsettling.
half-naked woman, and she's pissing herself.
Yeah. And she looks almost like a zombie, sort of like dead.
She looks like she's been beaten.
Yeah.
And after a thing I just watched, it kind of looked like she'd maybe been sexually assaulted. Because I in that short film I watched that I mentioned last week,
from Etheria, yeah.
She'd been sexually assaulted, and she wakes up peeing herself just out of fear. And it kind of made me think, like, the way she was dressed, the way she was disheveled, like she had bruises on her face, it looked like she'd been sexually assaulted. And was coming towards her. And so she does what the only thing she can think to do, and it's run up to her room, and lock the door. And I think of something Hugh told her.
Yeah, this is a big no-no, because he said never go into anywhere that only has one exit.
Yeah, that's what he says. On that, I think that sticks with you through most of the movie.
Because I don't know if he specified, but he said that it's going to come after you, but it has to walk.
Yeah.
It will be walking towards you.
It will be slow, but it will come. It will come.
That's the tagline to It Swallows.
Yeah. Well, so then she makes it up to her room. Everybody's beating on the door, like, let me in. So she finally opens the door. And as Dana is walking...
Yara.
God, why do I keep calling her Dana?
I really don't know.
It's because that fucking short film was Dana. God damn it.
Okay.
Yara is like, no, it's me. It's Yara. Just open the door. When she opens the door, this giant, like, 7'7" dude comes walking right behind her, which apparently he is a twin that's also, like, 7 feet tall, and they have the world record for, like, being the tallest twins.
Interesting.
Yeah. Nice claim to fame, I guess.
It's a great visual, though, because it's just Yara in the hall, and then he kind of, like, dips down to look into the doorway.
It's completely overwhelming her.
And
she freaks out.
Yeah, she books it, and she goes out on her, like, weird not-to-code patio that's, like, hanging out over her room and just, like, fucking dives.
Yep, she dives down and she runs to a nearby playground.
Yeah.
She bicycles to a nearby playground.
In her underpants still.
And as this is going on across the street, Greg notices the chaos. Which I think earlier, it was when Jay got dropped off by Hugh. They noticed it then, too, and I think it's his mother that says, like, oh, that family's always had issues.
Yeah. Possible little hint there. Yeah, so they all find her in the playground. And it's interesting that she retreats to what is, a child sanctuary playground. And yeah, use the
douchebag.
They're all
Greg
consoling
shows
her,
up.
and she's very concerned about whether they believe her or not. She's starting to get that, like, am I crazy vibe going.
Yeah.
Greg shows up, and he's, just kind of macking. Really more than anything. Like, hey, baby, don't worry, I got you.
He's like, this chick's scared. I'm going to swoop in there.
Yeah.
It's a good plan.
So they come up with a plan now. That's when they're going to start trying to track down Hugh.
Yep.
They follow up on all the leads they have of Hugh.
And this is one of my favorite scenes of this film. I forget how they get onto it, but they go to a school. Oh, no, they go to his house first. That's where it all starts at. Yeah.
The house that he said that he lived in, that he was squatting in.
And they explore the whole house. And I have a note about the house, because this is kind of crazy. Let me find it.
So while you're looking for that,
I got it. Okay. It's about the style of the house. It's called an American Foursquare, which was super popular in the 1890s to the 1930s. And floor plans of this always have a circular traffic pattern so that you can go through different rooms and all go back to the starting point without having to reverse your path. So it would be like kitchen, vestibule, living room, dining room, kitchen, and you could just circle that easily. And then also that has stuff like adjoining bedrooms would sometimes then share closets and bathrooms, so you could pass room to room, like through the closet or through the bathroom. And it's a very fluid style of floor plan. And if you're thinking about that and then why Hugh picked this, it makes it very desirable if you needed to escape, because you've always got another direction you can go.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Such a subtle little thing, but in the
Very
scope of what's going on, it's like such a meaningful decision they made.
Which seems to be a regular thing for David Robert Mitchell.
Yes, he's an amazing director.
The thing that gets me is when they find his little, like, mattress.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and he, like, has a bunch of, like, jizz tissues all over
Yes.
some nudie mags that Paul picks up and, like, brushes off. But it's kind of creepy because Paul's sitting there just like casually flipping through porno mags, like. But turns out there was good reason to do it because he does find a picture of Hugh in high school. High school.
Yeah, high school because it's an older picture.
Yeah.
With another girl. They recognize the letter jacket. And so they go check the high school.
Or he's a 21-year-old in high school.
Yeah,
one
maybe.
or the
I don't
other.
know.
He could have been held
One of
back.
these days, I'm going to graduate.
When they go to his
The
high
Eddie
school,
Munson of,
This is the year.
when they go to his high school, that's the scene I was thinking of because you have this neat camera thing where the camera kind of spins and it's in a hallway, and you see like the hallway, and you see there's a classroom just off to the side, and then when it goes outside, there's someone walking toward the camera,
Kind of far away.
kind of really far away, and then it spins around more, and then we're back in the hall, and you see Jay and Greg, and they're coming in, they've got the photo, and they go into that classroom and start talking to the teacher to be like, hey, do you know who this is?
they start pulling yearbooks and stuff and looking.
Pans back out, that figure's even closer now. It's clearly it, and they don't even realize it's there. And just every rotation of the camera, it's a little closer.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And that's really one of the things I love about this, quote, monster, is just that you have no idea what it is.
Right.
There was talks of a sequel where they were going to like try to track down the origins of the thing. And I'm like, please, God, don't do that. Like,
no sequel to this. No.
Well, it hasn't happened, and it's been since 2014, so I really don't think it's going to happen now.
God, I hope not. That's one of the things I love about this movie. Whatever it is not over-explained.
It doesn't need to be.
There's no scene with some psychic dumping a bunch of info about its backstory and history. There's no scene of them going to the library and rolling through microfiche, looking at old news articles and piecing it together. We don't need it. It's not necessary, and it's not here, and I would hate if there's a sequel and it does
Well,
that.
and that's the thing with nightmare logic. You don't need that. Like,
Right.
it doesn't. It's a nightmare.
And it makes it a metaphor. It could be whatever the fuck you want it to be.
Exactly. Well, now that they've gathered all the information they can
They
about
learned
Hugh,
his name is Jeff.
so they go find him.
Jeff Redman.
Jeff's out doing his thing, but freaking the fuck out all the time because he thought that, I guess he clearly thought by passing it along, he was, well, we know it's probably happened before, that he was going to kind of get to live his life, but he's still just freaking out all the time. Like, he's still, they've confronted him to get a little bit more of the story.
I love how it works because they drive up on the house, and at first just Jay goes up there. I think Greg's kind of lingering nearby in case, and the rest of them are just like chilling at the car. And then it's his mom that answers the door, and she's like, "Oh yeah, Jeff's out back. You can come on in." And she's like, "Oh, bring your friends."
Yeah. Now, this is something I didn't catch, but I see it in the synopsis here. Was the woman they saw at the old abandoned plant when Hugh first, transmitted it to Jay? That woman, the naked woman, was supposed to be his mother?
Yes.
Okay. See, I don't know why, but I didn't put that together.
Happens a few times in the film, but they only give you like a little subtext to realize it was a certain character.
I didn't catch it, but it's so quick.
Yeah.
I think it's because it happens so early, and then you don't see the mother till later.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's going to happen again. There's a specific...
It's more explicit when it happens then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he takes them all into the backyard, and kind of they just sit down, have a little chat about what's going on.
That's when he tells them kind of the origin of how he got it.
Yeah, this is where he says it was a one-night stand. He just was hooking up with someone, and then, boom, he got it.
They basically don't really learn much.
Yep, and he just says, all you got to do is just go pass it on.
Yeah, you're a girl. It shouldn't be a problem for you.
Yeah. He drops all pretense of ever having cared about her at all at this point.
So now...
And this is where, I don't know if we want to pause here and talk about this for a second. So one of the big discussions about this film is that the whole it and what it is and everything with it is that it's a metaphor for a sexually transmitted disease.
That's one one obvious metaphor, yes.
That one I think is the most obvious.
I think it's a disservice to the film to stop there, though.
Yeah.
I agree.
On the surface, that is definitely the easiest thing to come to the conclusion of. It's also...
And it's one of the themes.
Yeah.
A movie can have multiple themes.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I love about, like Jason already said, that this can be a meta... Because there's no backstory, the metaphor can be placed for anything you want it to be. The nightmare could be whatever your fear is. It could... I think it could easily have to do with like the fear of like fitting in, growing up. Like
I think growing up is the key, and I think
Yeah.
at the end, I think it's fairly obviously explained by the quote that Yara reads.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that.
I got it pulled up. Don't worry.
Okay, yeah, I got it here too.
Well, they decide now that they're going to, with Greg involved, there's a place he knows that they can go,
It's the old family lake house.
and that they think they'll be safe. At least they can try to wait it out, because it's a ways away.
It'll take it a while to walk there.
So they basically all go there. They're going to try to wait it out, and they're kind of having like a normal... I don't know, they're kind of having like it's almost like a weekend getaway type thing, because they're like
Hanging out.
Hanging
She's
out.
learning how to shoot a gun.
Yeah.
This slice could be its own horror film in another movie
Yeah,
if you pulled it out.
right.
But yeah, they teach her how to shoot a gun for her protection because they think, well, maybe we can shoot it and
Yeah.
kill it.
And so they're all kind of chilling there on the beach, and Kelly is very openly like trying to get Greg's attention. She's wearing like some kind of weird tube top thing.
I don't know why it didn't work.
She's looking pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
it
say.
got my
I'm gonna be
attention.
honest.
That's all I'm saying.
But Greg's more interested in Jay.
Which is,
Anyway,
that's cool.
what I really love about the way the scene works though is because you don't really see Yara.
Yeah, and then she just comes along in the background.
Yeah,
on
and
her
so
tube.
you're seeing Yara, what you think is Yara, walking up behind them, and you're like, "Oh, Yara's coming." And so Greg
She's out
gets
taking a walk or something.
yeah,
you know.
Greg gets up and goes to take a leak, and Yara just keeps walking closer. Well, then the camera turns, and you see Yara actually out in a floaty,
Yeah.
out in the lake, and you're like, "Oh fuck,
Yeah.
that's not Yara." And
Cuts back to Jay, and there's nothing behind her at this point.
all you see is this. I remember when I first saw this, it was so great. You just see Jay's hair lift,
Yep.
and it's so perfectly done.
Yeah.
And that's when everybody else sees it as well.
Yeah.
And it like rips her up, and she's fighting it or whatever. Paul tries to jump in,
He grabs a chair and
Grabs-
It hits her with the chair.
grabs
Smashes
the
it
chair,
over it.
hits what, like he can't see her,
And he's obviously hitting something.
but he hits it, and then Paul just gets fucking waylaid.
Yeah. It's like a horse kicked him or something.
Yeah, and knocked like 20 feet away. Like it really kicked the shit out of him. So the thing obviously has supernatural strength. But breaking like the chair thing is obviously enough for Jay to get away. So she starts taking off running.
and she scrambles to this little shack that's on the beach.
That's where they keep
Where
the
the
gun,
gun
hidden.
is. Yeah.
Everybody makes it in. Paul, Kelly, Jay make
Paul's
it
got
in.
some nasty like cuts on his stomach now.
Yeah.
Greg's still outside.
Yeah, Greg is like trying to figure out what's going
Yeah, it's
on.
like, yeah, what's going on? They shut the door. They're like, bolt the door.
Greg comes running, and the door gets kicked. I think that, this is where like the door gets busted open or whatever. And
It's the bottom chunk of the door.
Yeah.
It,
like something's busting through.
Yeah, Greg is trying to get in or whatever, and so she starts saying like, "Well, clearly something busted. You saw this. Clearly something busted through the door." And then you get that really creepy version of it
Yeah, it's like a
It's like a kid.
child almost. Yeah.
that climbs through through this open part of the door, and like, well, she makes it out.
Oh, and we missed one part because when they're being pursued by Yara, when it is in the form of Yara, she shoots at it and hits it in the neck.
Yeah, well, she
And
goes.
it does bleed and it falls.
She gets the gun and starts shooting, and Greg is like down the field and like has to fucking take cover
Yeah, what are you
behind a
doing?
lawn chair.
Yeah.
But yeah, she does shoot it in the neck. It does bleed, and it falls.
Oh, and that boy too. We should say, it's one of the neighbor kids.
Oh, that was peeking on her?
Yeah.
I did not.
Sneaking out a beacon.
There's so many like little things that you don't see characters for long enough.
Yeah, you
and
forget about them.
and you don't remember that that's who they are, which I think is on purpose.
It rewards careful study.
Yes.
But it's on purpose because how many times do you see someone regularly and you actually wouldn't recognize them if, or they would be unassuming. You wouldn't think anything about them. But she makes it out of this.
But the big takeaway too from the shooting, it drops and then just gets right back up.
Right. Gets right back up.
But there were 2 exits, so she was able to get out.
She runs to the car. And
Just
takes
fucking
off.
takes the car and it's gone. But I mean, why not?
No, I mean,
'Cause
that's
it's
what I would do.
coming for her.
Right.
It's not
And
coming
I love
for
how it's
everybody
shot
else.
too, where it's like the camera's really up in her face as she's driving off.
Yeah.
And you just see through the back window everybody else running after her, being like, "Jay, wait!"
Yeah.
But what's cool is right behind them is it. Like it's among them.
Yeah, they don't even notice.
Yeah, they don't notice, and the thing doesn't care about them.
Right.
But yeah, now
She
one
wrecks.
of the-
This is where she wrecks.
yeah, some dude carelessly backing out on a
Well, she is going pretty fast.
farm. No, he should have known where he was going.
Jeez, man.
He should have known there was a film crew there.
Michael's judgy
Jesus.
tonight. Let's go.
Dang.
No, she wrecks the car, breaks her arm. She wakes up in a hospital bed.
And she's pretty desperate at this point.
Yeah. Greg is there. And at this point, she's like, why not? You know, Greg's like all about it. And he's like, basically encourages
He
it.
says, "Hey, just pass it to me. I'll handle it."
Yeah, I can handle it.
I rolled the dice on this one.
So they have very weird hospital bed sex.
It's an interesting scene too because we get this camera pan and it's showing all the hospital rooms.
Yeah, there's that voyeuristic thing again.
And there's there's little vignettes of like a family reunited with some like a parent that's ill, and then there's like a kid being spoken to by a doctor. And you keep drifting over, and then Jay's sleeping with Greg.
They hospital fucking. Sorry. So now, essentially, the curse or whatever is gone from Jay, and now it's on to Greg.
But notably,
well, it's still on her, but
Yeah.
the thing has to get Greg first.
Right, which we
Follow
don't.
the chain.
We don't really know that yet, do we?
I think you
you suggested
had
it.
explained that.
he made it clear you can still see it, but it's only coming for the current
Right.
bearer of this curse.
So once she's out of the hospital and back home, Greg is
She's got a wicked cast.
yeah, but she can see Greg's house across the street, and you know during the night she hears a window break, and she looks down and sees
Well, she sees Greg walking toward the house first.
yeah.
And she's kind of watching, like, why is he out there? He's like wearing long johns or something.
Yeah.
And he goes to the house, tries the door, doesn't open. And then he breaks the window with a rock. Yeah. And that's
Right.
when she's trying to call him.
And he's not answering.
This is another scene that made me think of Nightmare on Elm Street when Nancy's trying to call Glenn across
I was
the
going to
street.
bring that up. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned
Yeah,
it.
'cause she's even using like an old landline phone and everything.
Because also, too, the part where she's running from the old woman at the school, that made me think of the nightmare in the school in the original film.
Right. That's why I said the whole "where's your past" thing. But yeah. Anyway.
Thank you for the clarification.
I just wanted to clarify that in case anyone didn't get that.
Well, now Jay runs across the street to try to save Greg, and she when she gets
I
there,
love this scene.
she sees what we find out is Greg's mom.
Yeah, there's like a woman in a robe knocking on the door,
Yeah, just banging on the door,
and Jay's yelling, "Don't answer it! Don't answer it!"
and Greg's like, "What the fuck, mom?"
Yeah. And she's half nude, you know, the robe's kind of open.
Greg opens the door, and she just lunges him.
Yeah.
But then this is where you see kind of how the thing kills. And Jay comes in and she's like humping.
It's extremely sexual.
Yeah.
She's like grinding him to death.
Yeah, and then breaks in.
But it looks like their arms are kind of fusing too in this almost Cronenbergian fashion, right? Or am I?
A little bit,
Was I
yeah.
imagining that?
I
It's
think
subtle.
I think when you got that level of grinding going on, things just like you get a full society thing going, and like
Yeah.
everybody's like, what did they call it in society? In the society,
Oh, the shunt.
the shunt. Yeah, you get a full shunt going on there.
So, yeah, but notably, Greg's dead now. That means Jay's back on the target block.
Yeah, and that wasn't even his stepmom.
The cool thing is too is like where you really see how it works, and she's like yelling, "Don't answer it! Don't answer it!" And the thing just looks at her and then looks back at the door. You know,
Yeah.
like it's not interested in her.
I'll get back to you.
So Jay flees in terror, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Hits that car again and bolts. And this leads to one of the most mysterious scenes in the movie, I think.
This is where they all try to go to that.
She spends the night outdoors and she just sleeps on the car hood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very sad moment. The next morning, she's checking out the area nearby and she's at a beach. Mm-hmm. And she looks out and in the water, maybe it's the ocean, maybe it's a lake, probably a lake.
Either way, there are three hunky boys on a boat.
And it's just like, boom, that light bulb pops over her head.
Yeah. She starts walking into the water.
And she undresses, and she walks in, seems to be swimming out to the boat, and we
And that's where it
cut, hard
stops.
cut.
Yeah. So it kind of leaves it up to you. But then it does show her driving, and she's sopping wet, and her cast is wet and everything.
So the question is,
Did she go have sex with those boys?
yeah. What do you think, Michael?
I don't think so.
In It Swallows, she most definitely does.
The thing that's interesting about it is we skip a little bit of time. It's vague, but it's clearly not been that long because she still has the cast on.
Yeah.
So then it's the thing of like, well, maybe she didn't, and then that's why it's just back at her again. Or maybe she did, and if she didn't explain anything,
You're going to be dead fast.
they're going to go just like Greg.
Especially if we're all together.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know. I mean, now that you put that, it's totally a logical thing. I guess in my mind, where I was thinking when she saw the people on the boat was, what if I went and lived on a boat, or can the thing go? Do you guys,
Michael.
I'm sorry.
do you guys think this would work better as a play?
You sweet, sweet summer child.
I'm sorry. I really am. That's funny.
But then I think she was trying to wonder if the thing could swim.
Well, it could walk on the bottom of the water.
Exactly, but can it swim up to her if she lived on a boat? See, this is why I'll survive, and you all will have sex with the weird thing.
Anyways, it's an interesting thing to think about. It doesn't really impact the outcome of the film, but it really sets up a kind of the moral quandary that you get put into having this curse.
Right.
And then you kind
I mean,
of
at least, you, Jeff, explained it to her. If she had sex with these guys and didn't really say anything.
and clearly that moral quandary has happened already because it's still coming for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to ask the question, if it got the person who was the last one, well, I guess it would have to go back to the next one and back on down the line.
Yeah.
But people keep choosing to pass it on and keep choosing. What's that? What's the study? They reference it in The Good Place about like if you had to if you're on a train and you had to run over people or whatever.
Oh, yeah. You could throw the switch and just kill one person who's like your friend or something.
Yeah.
Or kill other people who you don't like so much.
And it's kind of like, and
Yeah.
you're always put in that position as to which do you do. Or do you kill 3 people you don't know, or do you kill one person you do know? Kind of a thing. And it's like everybody keeps choosing the shitty option.
Yeah.
But now this is where they come to the idea that they're going to lure the thing and try to kill it.
It's a great plan. It's a solid plan. It has my blessing.
But before that, Paul is like, look, just pass it to me.
Oh, this is right.
This is the scene you want to
This
talk
is
about,
the
isn't
scene
it?
that pisses me off.
He says,
Yeah.
I believe you. I believe it's a real
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
I'll do something about it. I'll take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when he tells it, but what pisses me off, and the line that changes Paul for me completely, is where he goes to the just kind of pining friend to total dirtbag, is when he says, "Why did you choose him?"
See, I don't think that's a dirtbag. I think it's very harsh of Paul. I think it's a fair question. I mean, if you're crushing on someone and,
But if you break it down, it's like, because at this point I think he believes her, but he's also still hung up.
But it's not like he was being mean to her. He
No.
wasn't like yelling at her and fussing at
But
her.
it was
you
still
didn't pick me.
But it was still like,
It was real casual to me.
Yeah, I
why
thought so
did you
too.
choose? But I just don't like the question. I don't like the question of like, why did you have sex with him and not me? When it's really comes down to, that's just not a question you need to ask of somebody who's going through that much trauma. Like, I don't know, but that's also expecting a lot of humanity out of people, and these are just normal people. So
I'm gonna side with Jason on this one.
All right, thank you.
you've sided with Jason the whole time.
And
It's a college. She's not going to live on a boat.
I'll get to my point with it. That we'll get to it later. But I'm just gonna throw it out there. Paul's the man with the plan.
He at least does have the plan.
And some people have criticized this plan for being stupid, and yeah, it is kind of stupid. But it's a kid's plan. It's a bunch of younger people, young adults,
And they'd have no research, no info.
and it does make sense.
We don't get the big info dump of like you have to go here, and it was
Right.
on the night that this
Yeah,
thing died.
you have to
and-
bury the body, and then it will be at rest. No,
Yeah.
none of that. They don't know anything. You're right.
But what they choose to do is they're going to have Jay get in this pool,
Big old pool.
and they're going to put electrical devices all around the side of the pool, and they're going to try to lure the thing in Once it's in there, Jay's going to get out of the pool and they're going to chuck the electrical devices in and fry it.
Yep.
Which
they've tried shooting it. They know that doesn't work.
it's not. It's really not a bad plan.
No, you just don't want her to be in the water when it happens.
Yeah, that part's a little bit risky. But we get this kind of big setup, and you're kind of wondering if it's going to come. It does.
Well, I want to talk about the going to get there. Mm-hmm. There's like a really like haunting like trip that they take to go there, where they're walking past all these old dilapidated houses, and Yara even gives this little speech as they're going, which I wrote down because I thought it was interesting. She says, when I was a little girl, my parents would not allow me to go south of 8 Mile, and I did not even know what that meant until I got older. And I started realizing that was where the city started and the suburbs ended. And I used to think about how shitty and weird that was. I mean, I had to ask permission to go to the state fair with my best friend and her parents only because it was a few blocks past that border. Mm-hmm. And in a way, that kind of metaphors this idea about, like, to me, the loss of innocence, which I think is definitely a theme in this film.
Oh, yes.
Okay, Michael, we can go on. I just thought that scene was significant.
It was.
I just glossed right over it.
You're also seeing all these dilapidated buildings, like you said, as they're going, and it's just reinforcing that theme of growing old and decay and the inevitability of death.
Yes.
This is, I think, one of the haunting things about this movie. Movies that ask real horror questions to me are the ones that really sit with you and make you think.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so they get everything all set up for this plan, and it does finally show up.
I love this part.
And she says it's here.
Oh, we missed a part we really need to go back for, though. When they set out to go to the pool, as they're pulling away, it is up on top of the house.
Right.
Oh yeah, full frontal nude dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, just standing on top of the house. It's kind of a creepy image.
Hang dong too, right up there.
Which I've seen a lot of people criticize this scene because they say, like, why is it up there?
Because it wants to be.
And I think this is where that dream logic that you're talking about, Michael, comes in. Does it really matter why it's up there?
Yeah, also, you/Jeff, the rules he presented were through his observation. Mm-hmm. Who knows what this thing's capable of?
Yeah.
Maybe it can just appear wherever it wants to.
Well, and it does specifically, Hugh did tell her that he thinks it does things to piss you off or to, like, get to you more. Mm-hmm. And so I mean, to me, like, I don't need to break down its logic or whatever because I don't need to, but I don't think for the people who think that doesn't make sense, like, if its goal is to terrify you, and eventually kill you, then it knows it can't catch you in the car, so just making itself seen is enough to remind you that it's there.
Right.
Like, it's full-blown Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to get you.
It's going to take its time.
It's not going to do it right now,
Yeah,
but I'm also going to remind you that I'm still here.
Yeah.
And so that you can't rest easy.
Right. Now, was this the same form on the house that it takes in the pool?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
The form it takes at the pool is very significant. And
Yes.
I'll just go ahead and say it now. It's Jay and Kelly's father.
And I love it when Kelly asks what it looks like.
And she
Jay
says, I don't want to tell you.
Yeah, I don't want to tell you.
And we never see him in the film. He's clearly, something must have happened to him.
We've seen pictures here and there, if you're looking.
Yeah, we see the pictures on the wall.
Yeah.
And
that's
know
how
that-
you know his appearance.
But it's never, like, highlighted. There's never a big red flashing light. This is my dad.
So what I gathered was suicide. Because
It could be anything. That's
it really could be. It could. Maybe that's what
They
put
could have
on
been
it.
abused by this guy. He could have just up and left. He could have just had
The
a
thing
tragic accident and died.
Go back to is Greg's mother saying that family's always
Had problems.
had problems.
And but we do know that her mom. We haven't mentioned it yet. Her mother has a drinking problem.
Yep.
They usually wait for her to pass out. That's how they know. Like, she drinks until she passes out, and she's always, that.
Yeah.
So there's been some sort of trauma that's driven her to that, or maybe she was always like that. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But yeah, she says, "I don't want to tell you," and I'm with you. I fucking love that line.
Right.
And the thing is clearly smarter than them and starts chucking the shit into the pool.
Chucking appliances
This is where it starts breaking all the rules that you perceive to exist.
Well, but then now this quote that happened in the movie that they were watching at the very beginning comes into play.
Oh yeah, do you know the line?
I don't know.
I don't.
But
I didn't write that down.
It was something about that they had this idea, but there wasn't enough electrical current to make a shock or whatever. And it's exactly what happens. There's not enough charge or enough electrical current to really shock someone in the pool. So you kind of think that it might fry Jay, but it doesn't. So that's where they learn that their plan is clearly flawed in general.
And then Paul brings out the gun, because why not?
Why the hell not?
Paul starts... Well, it's because it is got her underwater, right?
Well, it's grabbed her at the edge of the pool.
Yeah. And so Paul decides to just shoot it plain air, not knowing, well, he ends up hitting Yara right in the leg.
Poor
She
Yara.
goes down. Nobody seems to give a shit. She's over there bleeding out, and everybody's like, oh, we'll deal with this thing.
Kelly goes and checks on her, but...
Kelly checks on her, and Kelly's the one that actually is the one who has the smartest move.
Yep, she grabs the blanket, and they throw it over it.
And so we actually get an outline of it. Paul shoots at it a couple times.
And there's an amazing blood spray, too, where they just ream it right in the head.
Yeah. But it's because he walks up
Yeah.
and, point blank, just blows it away. It falls in the pool. And then Jay's trying to get out of the pool, but the thing comes back to life again. Grabs her by the foot and starts pulling under. Super cool scene. I'd love to know how they shot it, of her squirming and looking like she's trying to swim away in the pool, but she can't move.
Yeah.
Paul is aiming over her, trying to find the thing, and he shoots
He's shooting into the water, yeah.
and gets it in the head again.
Yeah.
And it just kind of floats down to the bottom and drifts away.
She gets out of the pool, and there's just this red cloud of blood just filling the pool.
An unnatural-looking red
Oh,
cloud
yeah.
of blood, so it's clearly something...
And then notably, she has marks on her leg, kind of like when you think of a ghost grabs a person and squeezes or something and it leaves a handprint.
Or also the handprint of an abuser. So
Yeah,
definitely could
think about that.
catch in there.
And there was a weird metaphor thing earlier I wanted to go back to once we talked about this. I think it's when they're at the lake house, and one of the times they're hanging out, Jay's just kind of playing with some grass, and she lays out 5
Oh, yeah.
on herself. And it kind of is it's similar to almost the lines you would think of if someone's cutting themselves, or it could be also a parallel to this phantom hand that's on her now.
Right.
You can take it different ways, but it's another interesting time where this film sets something up and then there's a callback later.
Right.
So now, presumably, the thing is dead.
Maybe? Question mark?
There's no body.
But I think in Jay's mind and in Paul's mind, they've done something.
They do something.
Yeah.
They have sex, finally.
They do. They have a sexual encounter.
They do.
Very consenting sexual encounter.
And that's kind of the final scene of the film.
And this is where my man Paul busts out that plan, the real plan, to stop it from plaguing them. He goes on a little stroll, a little drive.
He's checking out some sex workers.
Finds a few sex workers.
And again, we don't see anything. We don't see what happens here.
We don't know what happens.
Does he stop? Does he not? But the last shot's fantastic. I love the ending.
Fucking
of this movie.
amazing. Right back to the Halloween reference again.
Yep.
Jay and Paul are just walking down their little suburban street, and they're holding hands, just together. And it's really an interesting shot because something about the way they look here and the way they're acting, they feel more mature now. Mm-hmm. And it's clearly everything they've gone through. It's that innocence is now gone. Now they are mature adults at this point.
Right.
However,
in the far background, you see this figure just walking behind them.
I love how ambiguous it is.
Yep.
Is it? Is it not?
Yeah.
is it someone on that street just
Right.
walking, or you don't know?
Who knows? And that's where it ends.
Fucking amazing ending. Just
Yeah. It's a perfect ending.
There's no resolution. It's still all hanging there. Mm-hmm. They've gone through this arc, and it does have a defined ending, but it's something that's going to plague them forever, potentially.
Prime for the sequel, where they can go
No.
down to the basement of the library and start running through paper reels and come across from 1921. There was an old man in a house. It burned down.
But so in the scheme of this, isn't Paul's plan the best? If you go through with that, sleep with a sex worker, then they're going to pass it to people.
Sure. They're going to presumably be having a lot of sex with a lot of people.
And then presumably their clients will also be...
That also endangers more people.
It does.
There's the same logic again. Do you
perpetuate it, or do you...
This always reminded me a lot of The Ring.
I was going to bring that up, yeah.
Okay, I thought you might.
It's that same thing. If you have to make that choice of, do you let it end with you...
Yeah.
Or for the sake of...
Keep perpetuating
whatever you justify it, perpetuate it further.
What would you do?
What do you think I would do?
You'd totally pass it on.
Yeah, totally.
I'd pass it on.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd want to say that I wouldn't, but
I'd pass it on someone I didn't like.
Me. Like,
Come here, Michael.
get over here.
So one of the other interpretations I want to talk about, and it's kind of the one I lean on a lot. So we've got this idea that, okay, it's a sexually transmitted disease.
Sure, that's one interpretation.
And, let me find it. I have it in my notes. There's even some, just to give credence to this, I don't like to have that be the only interpretation, because I feel like if that's your whole
It's too simplistic.
takeaway from the movie, it runs into some problems, because you get into, like, the people that have it are seeking intentionally to give it to other people to save themselves. And that's a little unfair, I think.
Yeah, and that's also not how sexual diseases work.
Yeah. But if you do enjoy that angle, that's your interpretation, you can definitely draw a correlation between Jay being infected with this haunting and stuff like late stage symptoms of syphilis, which can cause general paresis and dementia, hallucination, manic delusions, all kinds of stuff like that. So if you're really riding that line and like trying to stay to that, a lot of the symptoms of what it is as far as it's affecting her, you could draw some parallels there.
Sure.
But for me, what really like struck me the first time I watched it, to me, it is just a metaphor for death.
Yeah.
You can't stop it.
You can't stop it. It's always coming for you. You don't know when it's going to get you. You can maybe do some things to delay it, but eventually, inevitably, it's going to come for you.
We do all these things in our lives to like try to trade for time. And in reality, we have no idea when it will happen.
And so at the end of the film, it's when Yara's in the hospital being treated for her gunshot wound. They check in on her. It's just a little scene, but she's finished reading The Idiot, and she kind of gives one of these like quotes from it. And it says, but here I should imagine the most terrible part of the whole punishment is not the bodily pain at all, but the certain knowledge that in an hour, then in 10 minutes, then in half a minute, then now, this very instant, your soul must quit your body and that you will no longer be a man, and that this is certain. And that to me is like, boom, here is the thesis statement of the film.
Yep.
Ooh. This gives me chills. I love good execution on a movie.
I think the first time you watch it, or the first time I saw it, the metaphor of STDs, HIV, AIDS was like being very heavily pushed by outlets. So it's hard to not see that when you first see it.
Conservatives love that sort of thing, don't they?
Yeah.
Of course.
But when you watch it for the second time, which this was only my second time watching it, but I think when you watch it for the second time, that's when the film shines more. Because you really get a chance to say, okay, I've watched it with those glasses on.
Right.
Now I get to really watch it and look for other things and like really examine what it does for me, what things I see in it.
Yeah, it's definitely rewatchable. I mean, like Dustin said, it rewards you rewatching it.
So I hope...
And I copied down for us. Well, finish your thought.
Well, I was going to say, I really hope that from this episode specifically, that you guys would write in and tell us what you thought.
Oh, yeah. Because I've looked online. There's all kinds of interpretations of what's going on in this movie.
That's fine, but I don't really give a shit about them. I really just want to know, like, what you guys who are listening to this episode, who've made it like an hour and 20 minutes now with us, like, what do you, and after you've watched it, what do you think it's about?
Because our listeners have great taste, and they recommend us to watch things like It Follows.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe for you it is just the STD thing, and that's totally fine.
That's totally fine.
It's totally
You're wrong,
valid.
but it's totally fine.
It's completely valid, but I think that's one of the things that we try to do is try to force you to think about things a little bit deeper, maybe than just first watch impressions.
And I should say, I won't go deeper with it, but there's a ton of parallels in The Idiot to this film as well, and the whole like loss of innocence and the inevitability of death and all that stuff.
Sure. It's also very Freudian. There's the whole Eros and Thanatos, sex and death going on.
But I copied down from us. This is actually a quote from Mitchell about people asking, like, well, what is it? How does it work? And he said, I'm not personally that interested in where it comes from. To me, it's dream logic in the sense that they're in a nightmare. And when you're in a nightmare, there's no solving the nightmare, even if you want to try to solve it. And then he later added, too, that while Jay opens herself up to danger through sex, the one way in which she can free herself from that danger is also sex. And he said, we're all here for a limited amount of time, and we can't escape our mortality. But love and sex are two ways in which we can at least temporarily push that death away.
Yep.
It's real deep, man.
My man.
It is.
Real deep.
It's good stuff.
Why isn't he doing more stuff?
I don't know that Under the Silver Lake was that well received, but
Because it's not that great.
God, man, start a Kickstarter. I'm in.
But surely
Throwing all
somebody
the money.
like how,
Maybe he's working on. I mean, COVID did fuck everything.
how much
up.
did you say this made? Cost like $1 million or something?
Yeah.
Somebody can front him $1 million
You would think so.
to make another movie.
Of course, he may not be interested in doing another horror film.
That's true.
Maybe not. I'll watch whatever he makes at this point.
I mean, shit. Alex Garland said he's hanging it up. So
Really?
yeah, his next one's going to be his final directorial one, and he's moving back to writing.
He's a great writer, too,
He is a
though.
great writer,
Yeah.
but it's still like, oh,
Yeah.
he's so good.
Well.
So maybe it's one of those. Is it better to fade out or burn out or fade away?
Exactly.
Let's see. You got any fun notes? I'm scouring mine for anything.
You've pretty much hit all the things that I
Yeah.
came across.
Oh, the metaphor of water. So we've got the little pool she's in at first. It's pleasant and safe.
Kind of womb-like, isn't it?
Womb-like. They have all these nice memories of growing up there and being in that pool. And then now in the present, we've got these bigger pools of water, like lakes, the ocean, public swimming pools.
Adult life.
And they're all associated with it, the danger of this adult life. The first girl gets killed on the shore of a lake. Jay and Hugh go to a shore just before he passes the curse on. In the classroom, just before we see the old woman out in the quad,
Of the college.
the camera pans across some cardboard that's got text on it, and it says "Required reading: The Old Man in the Sea."
Yeah.
When Jay meets the woman who's pissing herself in the kitchen, the three paintings that you see just before that happens, one is a painting of the ocean, and you noticed it earlier too, I think, when they're hanging out on the couch. And the other two both depict lakes.
The urine is also wet.
Yes. And also, that night when she sits up with Paul, the movie they're watching has a blonde woman. She's in the ocean being attacked by a monster. When the little boy comes for her, they're at the little like shack by the lake, and then our big showdown is there at a pool. Mm-hmm. A lot of water connections.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And then his next film, Under the Silver Lake.
Think
This
about
dude
that.
hates water.
We really not minced words on how we feel about it, but we can do the official.
Sure, yeah.
Jason, what you got?
Yeah, actually, this is the first time I've seen it since the theater too, which is interesting because I picked up the Blue, always meant to go rewatch it, just never got around to it. But I liked it as much the second time, if not more, than I did the first time, and I really loved it the first time. So I don't just buy movies that much anymore unless it's something I really like.
Yeah.
Giving it a star rating, I would probably go with 4 stars.
What's your holdback?
I don't know exactly. I mean, I think it's a very good, solid film, but it just doesn't feel like a 5-star film.
Not enough wiener.
Yeah, it needs more wiener.
There's only one.
Yeah.
And it was kind of blurred from a distance.
Yeah.
Well, if it had been an A24 film, we would have got us over the line.
I mean, that's a good question. Why is this not a 5-star film for me? I don't know. What do you guys give it?
I'm at a 5.
5? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Any film to me that gets better with, like, when I first saw it, I probably would have given it a 4. Mm-hmm. But any film for me that just keeps getting better and better and better with each watch is a 5. Just because it's like that film is challenging me to do something more with it.
Yeah.
And while I don't have any problems with films that don't do that, like that, not every, it's not every movie shouldn't set out to do that.
Sure.
That's not what I'm saying. But the ones that do, that I've gone back and rewatched and keep catching things, or it's making me view something from a different angle,
Yeah.
or make me think about something differently, that's going to sit at a 5 for me, pretty much. I think maybe with the exception of, we did it, Hold the Dark.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that one was at a 5, even though it made me think about different things. That one had some other holdbacks.
And making up excuses to make the plot work.
Yeah, that had some holdbacks of its own. But this one is just, the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, yeah, STDs. I totally see that. It's a great metaphor. And then this time I'm like, oh, it's so much more.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And well acted, perfectly shot.
We can't understate, too, the score and just how impactful it is.
The score's fantastic.
I dig it. 5.
Okay, so I'm going to thread this through for you guys. The first time I watched it, I was decidedly a 4. I was like, I love the aesthetics, love the visuals, love the concept, love the effects. The music is so amazing. I ran out and bought the soundtrack immediately. Yeah. It's when I do like tabletop role-playing games, I incorporate music if I can. And the It Follows soundtrack is like a go-to if I'm doing like a modern horror kind of game.
I can see
like
that.
I'll always put that in the mix.
Nice.
So I just love the score of this one. I can't stress that enough. But my hang-ups were all, the first time, all on the lore of it. And I really did fall into that, like, well, this doesn't add up, and why is it doing this, and this contradicts that. And those bothered me so much that, like, I couldn't get past it. And so I was like, well, it's really good, but it's got some flawed logic. 4 stars. And that was a popular criticism of the film. I think there's even like I didn't save it because I don't care, but there's a Tarantino quote where he really reams on the film about like, it could have been great and it had all this awesome lore, but then it contradicted itself.
Yeah,
and
that's
blah, 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 blah.
asinine quote.
And I do love Tarantino, and I love his films.
He's an ass.
Yeah, too harsh. And so watching it this second time, I think that's where this idea of the dream logic thing really hit me. And I almost wonder if it's thanks to movies like Come True to have like made me more comfortable to that idea and how it can be executed well. I really didn't get bothered by that this time. And so now I'm like, well, I don't really have a thing that I hate about it or any flaws I can find too much. Like, I guess maybe if you really dug, I could pick something and be like, maybe this scene's too long, or maybe that's not needed, or whatever. But man, I love the cast. I love the visuals. There's so many amazing like scare gags and camera work and the music, and God, it's top tier horror, man. Just
all right.
So good. So 5 stars all the way.
5 stars, okay.
You and Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
Putting it up there.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you've also been curious about to any of the other movies we talked about, we also do have an episode on Under the Silver Lake, which you can go back and check out if you like. You can listen to how much Jason hated that movie.
I didn't hate it.
And you can listen to me and Dustin go on about our theories about it. We also talked about the movie Come True quite a bit, which was a more recent
That one I love.
listener episode
so
that we absolutely loved. So feel free to go back and check that one out.
And because this is a listener episode, I do want to say, please send us movie suggestions that we should check out and cover for the show.
Absolutely. Keep
They've all been
sending
so
them.
good.
So this also, when we hit a listener episode, it also demarks the time that we are moving into a different block.
Yep.
So we just wrapped up our anthology film.
And I want to say, what a great block that had been.
It was.
I had so much fun doing those films.
It was wild.
And covering them and researching, and God, the show notes have been out of control. Just so many movies and references and connections, and
That happens when you have like 7 or 8 stories in one movie.
yeah.
Well, normally I tell you guys pre-episode what block I'm going to choose and what movie I'm going to do. But I'm going super, super out of my comfort zone, and I'm hitting a genre or a theme that I have never seen a single film from.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we have no idea what it is.
Yeah, we're in the dark. This is happening live.
I am going for Indian cinema.
Indian cinema.
Now, I'm specifically not saying Bollywood.
Okay.
Because Bollywood is its own cinema.
Sure.
So basically anything from, I'm going to say Hindi language, that's also still could include, because there's multiple different forms of Hindi in India. So I'm going to say as long as it is from an Indian, from somewhere in the country of India.
Okay. Because really, Bollywood, that should be its own segment we do sometime down the road.
Because there's like Bollywood and like Tollywood, I think is another one. So like all the different regions of India have a lot of their own film studios.
This is a subgenre I'm not crazy familiar with either.
That's kind of why I chose it.
I have one film in my back pocket, and it'll probably be my pick, but we'll see.
Cool.
Because there's one movie I love that falls into this.
The cool thing is since I don't know shit about this, I just basically had to hit the internet and start looking at like what are some films that would be great for an intro, like for a jump on for an American audience. And I came across one that's everyone seems to really, really like. It's also horror, and it's called Tumbbad.
Oh my god, that would have been my pick. So I'm glad you picked it.
Oh really? Was that the one that you had?
I've been meaning to watch that one for ages.
I have been trying to get people to watch this all the time because it blew my fucking mind. I've been like, Jason, you gotta watch it. You gotta watch it.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you've seen it, and it is good.
Yeah.
I've not seen it.
I mean, we'll see what you guys think, but...
this is actually streaming on Prime. So I was also specifically trying to find something that would be easy to get because, God, if we started going down that rabbit hole of like, well, where do you find this? Well, you're going to have to subscribe to this one particular service that carries a lot of Hindi language films. But no, Tumbbad is available on Prime. I'm sure Dustin's got the Blue.
I don't know if it has a Blu-ray.
Oh, interesting.
If it does, I'm going to go buy it before we do the episode. Hell yeah.
So... Yes, well, now I'm really glad I chose it because that doesn't give you an out. Now you have to do the same shit that I did. I came across a lot of others that had really cool premises that sounded super cool. One of them had like a 3-hour runtime though, and I was like, well, Jason's out. So.
It's all about.
And we should say our podcast is served to Ghana, which is like the... was it like the podcasting platform for India specifically? And I know we get some hits off of it, so hello out there. You're tuning in from Ghana.
And what I'm really hoping to is please, if you are of Indian descent or speak Hindi or whatever, please understand that we are 3 white dudes that live in Kentucky that are going to really struggle through a lot of pronunciations.
Yeah, we're sorry in advance.
But I'm going to do my research as much as possible so that I do not butcher these names completely horribly. But I'm actually pretty excited about this block because...
Awesome. This is our first like world cinema.
And you ain't going to throw anything that I've seen, so it's going to be... I think it's going to be fun. So except you've seen this one, of course. So until next time, thank you guys so much for constantly interacting with us on our socials. Thanks for sending in movie suggestions. Please keep doing it because we keep a stockpile of them. And merciful, benevolent gods we are, choose them as we feel fit.
For free. No Patreon, no fees, no nothing.
You ain't got to pay us shit. We don't even have anything that you can chip us money.
No.
I mean, if you really want to.
We'll get shirts and stickers one day and
I don't know. Maybe.
someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll give you something for your money.
I'll give you something all right for your money. Okay. Anyway.
That's the end of the show, I think.
Yeah, I think I'll just fade out on that one.
Bye, everyone.
As always, you guys have been listening to Genre Exposure.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.